Hey guys, this is Clinton Jeff from UnleashedPhones.com, and here's a quick look at the brand new HTC Desire 816. HTC describes the Desire 816 as their flagship mid-range phone, and it's kind of easy to see why. This thing looks freaking gorgeous. It's a very good balance between features and pricing. There's a large 5.5-inch display at the front, and it's a quad-core processor powering all of this. At the back, HTC has let go of the ultra-pixel camera, and instead they've used a nice 13-megapixel camera at the back. You also have your front-facing boom sound speakers right over there, and as you can see from the screen, it runs HTC Sense 6 UI, which looks really clean and minimalistic. So does that all make the HTC Desire 816 worth the price tag? Here's what I think of it. Starting with design, the HTC Desire 816 has a very gorgeous minimalistic design with straight lines, very subtle curves, and it all makes it one of the best looking phones in this price range. Of course, it's mostly made out of plastic, but it feels very solid and very sturdy, and it's very comfortable to hold, even with the flat front and the flat back, as you can see. That being said, the glossy plastic at the back is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, and luckily we got the white version to review, but if you get the black or other colors of this phone, you might have to clean off the fingerprints from the back a bit. Along with the very reliable feeling build quality, the trims around the sides of the phone have a very rubbery matte finish, which makes the HTC Desire 816 feel very grippy when you're holding it. And that's pretty important because this phone measures 156 by 78 by 7.9 millimeters, which can be difficult to operate single-handedly because you can't really get to all corners of the screen. Now, I did say it was comfortable to hold, but operating it with one hand can be a challenge because of how tall this phone is. Because of the boom sound speakers at the top and the bottom, the HTC Desire 816 is taller than most other phones with a 5.5-inch screen. So as a result, if you're using it one-handed, you can't really get very far. So you're gonna have to use both hands to actually use this phone properly, as you can see. That being said, it weighs 165 grams, which is not too bad for a phablet. Coming to the front, the HTC Desire 816 has a very large, gorgeous 5.5-inch Super LCD2 display, which puts the phone in phablet territory. Now, some of y'all might be disappointed that it is just a 720p screen, but personally, I was more than happy with the 267 ppi pixel density, especially after seeing the same resolution used on the 6-inch screen of the Xperia T2 Ultra that I reviewed yesterday. Now, it might not be as sharp as the display of the HTC One M8, which is a 1080p screen, but I think the resolution is more than acceptable because the screen quality is really nice. Website articles look very comfortable and very readable, and you can watch videos or view photos, and they all look really great on that screen. Color reproduction is mostly great, and there are no oversaturated colors. The screen can also get really bright, which is a really good thing because it makes it easier to use outdoors in sunlight. That being said, if I switch off the screen, you'll see that it does catch a bit of fingerprints all around, which means you're gonna have to clean that as well. It's not too bad though. So HTC gets points for having a great screen on this phone. Above the display, you have the top boom sound speaker, which doubles up as a centrally located earpiece. There's also a proximity sensor and an ambient light sensor hidden behind there somewhere. There's also this 5-megapixel front-facing camera, which is great for selfies, and everybody wants to take selfies now, so I guess this is a good move by HTC. Below the screen, HTC uses on-screen navigation buttons, so you'll see no capacitive keys, just this useless HTC black bar with the bottom boom sound speaker right over there. The result of this design means that the HTC Desire 816 is a very clean, minimalistic looking phone that really does look gorgeous in person. Moving on to the rest of the phone, at the top of the HTC Desire 816 you have a lone 3.5mm audio jack and a tiny pinhole for the noise cancellation microphone. At the bottom you have just the micro USB charging port. On this side, on the left side that is, you have the power and screen lock button, the volume rocker, which is all very easy to find and press. And on the right side you just have this lone port over here, a plastic flap that opens up to show you the slots for the dual SIM cards and the micro SD card slot. Now, the HTC Desire 816 comes in a single SIM version or a dual SIM version. We have the dual SIM version into a review, but I should note that the dual SIM HTC Desire 816 is a GSM and CDMA dual SIM, not a GSM and GSM dual SIM phone. I should also note that the HTC Desire 816 uses a nano SIM card. All in all, the HTC Desire 816 is a gorgeous looking smartphone. It might be a mid-range phone, but HTC has definitely done a great job at design here. Just to show you the general size of the HTC Desire 816. This is how it looks next to the HTC One Max that was launched last year. The Max has a gigantic 6-inch screen, so you can see it towers over the 816 by quite a bit. Like the 816, it also has boom sound speakers, so they're both really tall phones. And just to show you how it looks against the HTC One M8, you'll see that the M8 is a much smaller size compared to the 816. Overall, I think the M8 is a more manageable size compared to the huge size of the HTC One Max. That being said, the 5.5-inch screen is kind of not too bad. Previously I used to really hate giant screens, but I've kind of grown to like the size of the screen of the 816. Moving on to hardware, the HTC Desire 816 is powered by a 1.6 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor with Adreno 305 graphics and 1.5 GB of RAM. What this means is that everything is really fast and slick. There are no slowdowns at all, no matter what apps you open up. And all in all, it's really not too bad. It keeps everything chugging on pretty well, and the processor does a really good job overall. It can handle most games you throw at it, but of course anything that's processor intensive, like a really tough 3D game, might see some performance drops. Apart from that, there's 8 GB of internal memory, which might sound like a lot, but out of that 8 GB you only get to use about 5 GB of space, which isn't a lot, but thankfully there is a micro SD card slot as well. In terms of connectivity, the HTC Desire 816 has Bluetooth 4.0, you also have NFC, Wi-Fi, GPS and FM radio. Some regions also have an LTE version, while some regions have the dual SIM GSM and CDMA version of the Desire 816. Personally, I don't know that many people that want a dual SIM phone that has GSM and CDMA properties, but if you are somebody that needs a GSM and CDMA phone, the Desire 816 is a pretty good catch. Alright, moving on to software. The HTC Desire 816 runs Android 4.4.2 KitKat, which is kind of the latest version of Android, but it does have the latest version of HTC Sense on top. That's HTC Sense 6.0. In my opinion, HTC Sense 6 is one of the best looking custom Android skins out there. Everything's very clean looking, and that's what I like about Sense UI, because right now everything's very consistent and minimalistic. It's also very similar to stock Android. There's the same home screen here, and there's the same app drawer where all your apps are listed, and basically all the same functionality as Sense 6 on the HTC One M8. There's blink feed at the side, which gives you kind of aggregate from all of your social networks and various news that I think you're interested in. To be honest, blink feed is something that you either love or hate. If in case you don't like it, you can switch off blink feed right there, which is a really useful feature if you don't like blink feed. You can also choose to set another screen as your home screen in case you want to. Apart from that, there's a couple more changes to the UI, such as the lock screen, which has shortcuts to apps at the bottom and gestures. For example, if you swipe left, you can get to the app drawer, and if you swipe right, you get to blink feed, and if you just swipe up top, you get back to whatever screen you were on before you locked the phone. Unfortunately, the Desire 816 does not get the double tap to wake feature or any of the motion launch gesture features of the HTC One M8. That's a little strange, but apparently that's hardware dependent. This is a bit of a bummer, but it's not too big a deal. Apart from that, even the messaging app has gotten a slight improvement. You can see that the UI is really clean overall, and there's 2 sending buttons right there, so you can know if you're sending something from SIM card slot 1 or SIM card slot 2. The HTC on-screen keyboard is quite nice and very comfortable to use, making full use of the display. Of course, you will need both fingers and both thumbs to type properly. Unlike other manufacturers, HTC doesn't have a one-sided mode for the keyboard to make it easy to type with just one thumb. So yes, you will need both thumbs to type properly on this. There's also swipe-like functionality, so you can swipe around the screen to type something. This is switched off by default though, I'm not sure why, so you have to go into your settings and make sure that you switch it on. Personally, I would definitely advise installing a third-party keyboard like SwiftKey, which is free right now and allows you to move and resize the keyboard to make it easier to type with one hand. Of course, you can also type in landscape as well, but that screen is just way too huge for this to be comfortable. Moving on, all the web browsing capabilities is handled by Google Chrome, which does a pretty good job. Google Chrome loads up websites really fast, as you can see, and scrolling around is no problem at all. Pages load very quick, but of course, if it's a very very heavy website, you will see a bit of lag. Coming to multimedia, HTC's Gallery app does a pretty good job of sorting all your images. As you can see, it also sorts images according to when they were taken or location, for example, which is pretty cool because this allows you to create fun little highlight videos, which will be pretty useful in case you're hanging out with your friends or something like that. Now this is a feature that's been used on the HTC One as well, so it's not new, but it's nice to see it here. HTC also doesn't have any separate video playing app, so all the video playing capabilities is handled by the Gallery app itself. Unfortunately, there's no support for DivX in the HTC Desire 816, so you will want to install a third-party app like VLC to play all your videos. That being said, the HTC Desire 816 can play back videos up to 1080p resolution just fine with no shutter or slowdowns at all. Moving on, there's also HTC's Music app, which is really nice and very fun and very generally clean to use. Unfortunately, I don't have any music on this phone right now, but you can see that it sorts your music by artist, albums, songs, or playlists. And the app can also download missing album art automatically, and there's also a fun visualizer built in which has support for lyrics, which automatically scroll as the music is playing. Shockingly, music quality through the HTC Desire 816 was really good via headphones, and music through the headphones was clearer and better than even more expensive phones like the Sony Xperia Z2 or even the LG G2. So music through headphones was pretty great, but because of the stereo front-facing boom sound loudspeakers, they sound really good when you play it through the loudspeakers. I feel like the loudspeakers are similar to the ones in the HTC One M8 because they are pretty much exactly the same in terms of loudness and quality. In fact, you can also hear a couple low-end frequencies once in a while, which makes the HTC Desire 816 great for watching videos, great for playing games, and just generally great for listening to music as well. Coming to the camera, the Desire 816 has a 13 megapixel camera at the back with a single LED flash. I'm kind of happy that HTC has let go of their ultra pixel 4 megapixel camera technology. As you can see, the camera interface is the usual Sense 6 camera interface, which is very clean and minimalistic, where the screen is mostly a viewfinder with a couple options for different scene modes right over here that you can choose from. There's auto mode, which is what it's on by default. There's also HDR, night, sweet panorama, anti-shake, portrait, landscape, backlit, and text as long as a macro mode in case you need it. I usually just leave it on auto, which does a good enough job. You can also tap this button over here, which brings up the bigger dialogues to switch between camera and video mode, or just a selfie mode. The 5 megapixel camera at the front, as you can see, is wide angle and does a pretty good job. It's actually really decent. You can check out those camera samples and camera samples of the phone on the blog. I definitely like the UI of HTC's Sense 6 camera app. For some reason though, the Desire 816 lacks the Zoe camera and pan 360 features of the M8. There's also no access to manual focus or white balance controls either. Coming to image quality, the Desire 816 does a pretty good job. It's probably one of the best camera results in this price range, though that might not be saying much. Images have plenty of detail all around and do look natural, with just a tiny bit of sharpness and contrast to make them look even better. The camera does have issues capturing very bright objects in the scene's dynamic range if it's too vast, but there's very little digital noise unless you really zoom in all the way. So scaled down pictures look pretty great as well. Likewise, indoor pictures also have plenty of detail with neutral or warm color tones, though there's a bit of digital noise and artifacting that occurs with low light, but it's not too bad. The single LED flash also does a great job at taking portrait shots. As always, you can check out these camera samples right over on the blog. Coming to video, the HTC Desire 816 can capture 1080p video at 30 frames per second, or you can record 720p resolution video at 60 frames per second, or you can record slow motion video at 120 frames per second. The camera does lock focus though when you're recording videos, so you will want to tap to change focus in the video in case you want to. But there's also a continuous autofocus mode that you can select in settings, which is turned off by default for whatever reasons. Videos look pretty good overall with sufficient detail and fast autofocus, though things can sometimes have too much contrast. Like I said, you can check out these video samples over on the blog at unleashedphones.com. Coming to call quality on the Desire 816 is decent enough, and voice is coming through that earpiece pretty natural without any distortions. That being said, it definitely could have been a slightly bit louder. On the other end of the line, caller said that my voice sounded loud and clear, so that was pretty good. Coming to battery life, inside the HTC Desire 816, there's a non-removable 2600 600 mAh battery powering everything, which is pretty decent given the smartphone's processor and size and screen resolution. According to HTC, this phone should be capable of delivering up to 21 hours of talk time on 3G, which should last for about a month if left on standby. According to my test, I got pretty good results from the Desire 816, which was always able to get me back home at the end of the day with some battery life remaining. In fact, I got the same battery life from the HTC Desire 816 as I got with the Galaxy Note 2 and Galaxy Note 3 when I reviewed them, which is a pretty good battery life all in all, and means that you will get at least a day worth of intensive usage out of the Desire 816. Under light usage, you could probably even get 2 days. Like the HTC One M8, the Desire 816 also comes with extreme power saving mode that basically conserves CPU usage, reduces screen brightness, and you can see all the things it does right over there. Basically, if you're really low on battery life, the extreme power mode comes in very handy because it basically turns your smartphone into a dumb phone, and as you can see, you have access to the essentials, but to its credit, it does extend the battery life by quite a bit if you turn this mode on. To conclude, the HTC Desire 816 turned out to be a pretty good mid-range smartphone for that price tag. There's solid build quality. In terms of design, it looks really beautiful, and you have a nice, beautiful, large display that's 720p resolution, loud front-facing stereo speakers, decent all-in-all performance, and the camera is also pretty good with a 5 megapixel front-facing camera for great selfies. To be honest, there's not much in this price tag that can actually give you all of those features. The only thing I would have improved on the HTC Desire 816 is maybe put a faster processor in there. I'm okay with the screen. I just wish that the processor didn't slow down when I ran any intensive games or things on top of it. But for day-to-day activities and day-to-day apps like Twitter and Facebook, the Desire 816 does a very, very good job. The only phone I can really compare this to is the Sony Xperia T2 Ultra, which we just reviewed earlier this week, which boasts a larger screen but is at the same resolution. You also have the same processor but clocked at a slower 1.4 GHz instead of the 1.6 on the Desire 816. You have almost the same build quality but doesn't look as great as the Desire 816 does. But to its credit, the Xperia T2 Ultra does have better battery life than the Desire 816. But the Desire 816 just looks much better, has louder stereo speakers, and the software UI just generally looks much cleaner than Sony's UI. So with these two phones, it's a decision of whether you want better battery life and therefore choose the T2 Ultra, or you want a better all-around phone, and that's why you pick the Desire 816. That being said, if you're looking at those two phones from a dual SIM perspective, the dual SIM T2 Ultra is a GSM and GSM phone, while the dual SIM Desire 816 is a GSM and CDMA phone. At the end of the day, you pretty much know what you're getting with the HTC Desire 816, and I'm very impressed with it personally. Right now, if you're going to buy a mid-range phablet, I would say either get this or the Sony Xperia T2 Ultra. So that's what I think about the HTC Desire 816, guys. As always, if you have any questions, let me know right in the comment section below, or you can check out our detailed written review over at unleashthephones.com for a better idea.